I ran for office first in 2018, and this was one of the issues that I was most passionate about that I came up to here to try to make a difference on. At that time, we were working with the 2010 tax incidence report, and sad to say, we haven't really seen much change. Obviously, the circumstances have changed. We are in a situation now where we have a massive surplus. We were running a deficit in 2019. And certainly the years before that. And some of the numbers have changed, but the results of what we see in the tax incidence report has not changed. And it tells the same old story that our state tax system as a whole is basically upside down, with the most fortunate among us paying the least as a percentage of their income and their wealth. And meanwhile, we find ourselves as a state unable to make critical investments we all agree need to be made. And we've heard a little bit about that, and we're going to hear more from some of my colleagues here today. But obviously, we just heard about needs in higher education. We heard about needs in the nonprofit sector that serve the neediest and among us. We have heard this year a lot about early childhood education and childcare being a common goal that many of us share here in the state, across the aisle, in the legislature and in the administration. So what's the solution? And this is where I like to roll up my sleeves. And every year since I've been here, I've proposed bills in the Finance Committee with various proposals, a few that keep coming up and keep coming back. One is implementing a modest change in the way we tax investment income and capital gains. So a modest capital gains surcharge, if we were just to do a point, from 6.99 to 7.99%, and this would affect the highest income bracket that's currently established, would generate approximately $150 million of new revenue. That's new revenue that could go to fund the gap in ECS this year, which is approximately the same in the governor's budget adjustments. It could go to fund some of our goals, again, in early childhood and child care that have been identified. It could go to fund the goal of meeting the needs of our nonprofits and what they need to pay that workforce that is so critical to caring for our neediest and disabled people in the state. Another issue that I've tried to highlight in my years here is the estate tax. We have basically eroded our state tax base over the time that I've been here. Unfortunately, there are very few people that pay the estate tax anymore, and that's because from 2016 on, we've raised the exemption level on who is eligible to pay for an estate tax. And in doing that, Connecticut has gone way down the list in terms of the states that assess an estate tax and the revenue that we collect from the estate tax. We're essentially phasing it out as we talk about the needs of the state as a whole that we're touching on today here. So that's just two ways. There are several ways that we can do that. They have been identified in the bill that will be receiving a public hearing, I suspect, in a few weeks, that Representative Elliott has taken the lead on. By doing these things, I think it's important to note that we can still stay below the comparable tax rates of our neighboring states. Looking just at income tax rates and capital gains, we are below New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Vermont, Maine, and even again with a modest increase in, say, a capital gains surcharge, we would still remain below those states. On the estate tax, New York, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Vermont, Maine, just our surrounding states, there are others, are above where we are right now in terms of revenue that they collect from their estate tax. And the final point I want to make is, as I've looked at these issues over the years and heard some of the arguments against them and some of the skittishness around it, frankly, I have polled my constituents, as I do every year. I send out a constituent survey. I'm not a pollster, but I do get a lot of responses, and I read the results of those. And what I found when I sent this question out last year with respect to should we lower the estate tax exemption thresholds to where they were in 2018, and should we assess a 1% capital gains surcharge on people making $1 million or more, 80% of my district, the 13th House District of Manchester and Glastonbury, which is a middle-class district, support raising the capital gains rate. 73% support the changes to the estate tax, so we can raise the revenue that we need.